Hey, got something to show you out here in Apple Valley, Howard, Ohio. This is a beautiful, glistening Thursday pool. It's called the Lil Bob, and it's in a Maya finish. This pool is fantastic. I mean, the reason why I say that is because this is a pretty affordable project here. It can basically fit in any backyard because the footprint's fairly small. Ideal for adults and entertaining because there's a U-shaped bench around this pool. It's great for conversation, staying cool and relaxed, have some music playing in the background. Even at night, you know, this place will come alive, you know, and that's the idea. We at Savage Pools and Patios, whether your budget's big or small, my goal is to do the best we can with that budget. And in this case, I think with the help of the homeowners and their thoughts, we've nailed it here. It's fantastic as far as space, but not too much space. I always talk to my customers about, you know, keeping the footprint small where it doesn't mean much and spending the money where it does. So like this side here and over there, as you can see where the loungers are, like that's where we wanted to emphasize space, and over here as well. But also, this is a concrete pool deck, and I think this is a topic that we want to spend a little bit of time on. Concrete, whether it's around a pool, on your sidewalk, in your driveway, it's all the same. It's all the same. In other words, the only thing that we can do is base it properly, rebar it, and pour it with the appropriate mix, which is what we do, but it's going to crack. It's going to chip. It's concrete. We live in Ohio. We have freeze-thaw cycles. This is not a perfect product. It does the job. Here, we have concrete, broom finish concrete, just the standard concrete all around this pool. And as you can see, I'm gonna step over here. As you can see, this is what we call a rock face edge. In other words, we form this edge with a rubber liner here. We pour into the rubber liner, and then we wait for this to dry and cure, and then we strip the rubber liner. This provides a rocky face edge. It is not smooth. It's not going to be perfectly smooth. If you want something that's perfectly smooth, you will have to defer to a stone coping that's polished and smoothed out, okay? Regular concrete, standard concrete like this, on the top and on the side, is going to have a gritty feeling to it. It's going to be somewhat rough, okay? So when you choose concrete, understand that it's imperfect, it is a little rough to touch, and it does cover lots of ground economically. That's why most people choose it, is because it gets hardscape around this pool at a reasonable price compared to a paver product, okay? Now, we can do stone coping around the edge of the pool, like this wide, 14 inches, 12 inches, 16 inches wide, whatever. And behind we can do concrete, whether it be broom finished or colored or whatever. So those are options as well. But I really want to talk about this rock face edge because I think there's a lot of confusion around it. There are other things in this rock face edge that you will notice when you see the pictures, and you're going to see some blistering or bubbling, so to speak. That's where, when we vibrated the concrete along the form, it didn't quite get all the air pockets out, so you're seeing some air bubbles that were left in the concrete. That's normal. Okay, so if you decide to go with a rock face coping edge, this is going to be on your project too. You're going to have these bubbles. You're going to have the texture be a little rougher. It's not pleasant to lean your chest up against by any means. You know, is it going to cut you? No. Could it scrape you? Yeah, I would say. But this pool turned out beautiful. It's glistening. What a great place to spend quality time with friends and family in the backyard. We've got a fire pit over here that was very meaningful to this client. And we kept that in place and we preserved that and built around it because a family member built that fire pit for the client. And they've got a really cool spot here where they have a couple TVs and a little bar area and whatnot. We did not build this piece, but this was already here, so we incorporated our design to go with it, and it turned out great. Back here, they put their fence up, which ended up being a great way to privatize this pool area from the neighbor. This has an auto cover, an automatic pool cover, as you can see, and it's got an auto cover lid here. This is what they call a flush lid, and we use this a lot in a lot of our jobs. If we were to do paver coping around this pool, we could replace this lid with pavers. We would just have to know ahead of time so we could do our paver lid system on the end of this pool versus the aluminum lid. As you can see, the aluminum lid's gray. It blends very nicely with the concrete. This is a valid option for most backyard pool projects. This would be probably a pretty good option. If you want seamless stone pool coping to go all the way around the pool and look symmetrical, then this would be where we would do a paver lid system. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about that's out here that's relevant, I would say, would be, you know, you can see that they've incorporated some shade products. I highly recommend that. They've incorporated their living space to be around various areas depending on where the sun is. That's a good thought. But as you can see, the steps and the entryways come right down in here. And these two benches that go along the side on this Lil Bob, which I love the Lil Bob from Thursday, you can sit here and talk with guests across from each other. And this bench is approximately 10, 12 feet long. So it's a really good sized bench on both sides. And this is just a very, very cool, simple, basic, effective way to get a little pool in your backyard. And like I said, this backyard is not very big. So to me, this pool, this Lil Bob, would do wonders in smaller areas if you're considering a pool. So I'm just very proud of the guys who worked on this job, and it turned out great. It looks awesome. We also, as you can see, we also do, on all of our pools, we do gray trims. Okay, so the gray trim sort of blends a little bit better, it seems. Like if we did all white trims, which we could have, we elect to do gray on every pool, but if we did all white, this stuff sort of gets loud and it stands out. That's why we do gray, because we want it to sort of go away. So all these trims are all gray. So we've got gray drains, we've got gray fittings for the lights, we've got gray fittings for the returns. Your auto cover lead bar's gray, the auto cover lid's gray. So it all goes nicely together and it blends very well. If you can see me, that's great, but I'm gonna walk around here and point out right here is also a skimmer lid, okay? However, this is not a skimmer. The only skimmer on this pool is located over, I'm sorry, this is the skimmer lid. I got it reversed. So we've got the skimmer here, and that lid's gray. And then over here, this is not a skimmer. This is actually, it's a sump tube. So a sump tube is a hole that we can look down in and see if there's any underground water pressure building up. And if so, we can take a pump and we can put it down there and pump that water out. If you ever read on the internet about fiberglass pools floating out of the ground, it's very basic physics. It's not hard to understand if you think of it this way. If you take a kitchen sink, for example, and you fill the sink up with water, say halfway, and then you put a piece of Tupperware in that sink, and you only put a ½ inch of water in the Tupperware, obviously the Tupperware is going to float on the water in there, even with a ½ inch of water. That's kind of like the pool. If the pool is a Tupperware bowl, and the outside of the pool, the dig, is the sink, okay? If we have less water outside of the pool than we do inside the pool's not going to float. It's physics, okay? That's why this is done here, not only to satisfy the manufacturer, which is Thursday Pools, on how to build this pool properly, because this satisfies the warranty on this pool for the lifetime, but this also is a way that you can visually see and pump out any excess water, so you don't have more water outside of the pool than you do inside, okay? So typically what I tell customers if it gets to the halfway point, you want to start thinking about pumping this out, okay? And it's funny how some jobs that we perform, we would think that those locations would be dry just based on what we see, and they end up being a little wetter. And then there's other locations where we think they're going to be a little wet and they end up being drier. So that's something that happens underground this property that you really don't know until you start, you know, owning your pool and checking on that regularly. So that's something that's very important that you want to do. Okay. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that I could show you the Lil Bob pool from Thursday. This backyard project looks fantastic. I'm so happy to be a part of it. I hope the customers are happy. They seem to be. And you know, this turned out really great. And I'm so excited that you guys could join us while we show this. And we thank you very much and look forward to talking about some more pools here soon. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your summer.